I looked at this recent Polkadot update and I was kind of impressed. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, I'm not trying to tell anyone to do anything. This is just purely my perspective. Now, did you know that basically almost 10 days ago, Polkadot announced how the Protocol Builders Program 2026 has officially begun. Now, people like to say, well, what is that? Now, let me just give some explanations as to what this is to the best of my understanding. So when it comes to this, it's allegedly this super selective 2-week intensive training program, and it's actually in Portugal. However, here's the thing. They had over 700 applications from all around the world. However, only the top 3% were chosen. So yeah, basically it was very selective, like I mentioned before. But here's the thing. So basically the people that got accepted, they were gonna spend around 2 weeks learning directly from top Polkadot engineers in terms of how to build and improve the actual core technology. Isn't that kind of impressive? I mean, a lot of other projects out there don't care about this type of stuff, but apparently, they do care about this type of stuff. So when I take a look at something like this, I think it showcases kind of the effort that, that is still there, basically. A lot of other, again, projects out there could care less about this, but we have to consider. So they're focused on educating others about Polkadot. I think that right there is pretty impressive because in order to see, in my opinion, better adoption, first of all, a lot of developers need to build. That's the thing. If they build, what usually happens? If for whatever reason, whatever they build does gain traction, let's say it gains attention, sometimes, kind of, as the old saying goes, right, a high tide raises all ships. So if, let's say, a lot of developers maybe choose Polkadot and then whatever they build becomes popular, maybe it sometimes brings Polkadot along with the ride. But this is all pure hypothetical, but I'm just saying. So I think this right here is pretty impressive. I mean, just the whole concept of it, right? People spending around 2 weeks directly from top Polkadot engineers, and they're basically being taught how to build and improve the actual core technology. Isn't that pretty impressive? So again, a lot of other developers out there, a lot of people out there that are very kind of knowledgeable when it comes to the space, maybe they're already accustomed to other places. But I think this right here kind of maybe showcases what Polkadot's really all about in a more in-depth type of way. And also on top of that, it could also indirectly make a lot of developers, more familiar when it comes to Polkadot, which I think overall in the long term is a net positive. Now people like to say, but with all this though, Polkadot's native token called DOT, just around $1.25 basically, who cares about this? But we have to think about the kind of effects that this could have over the long term. It's not going to showcase it instantly, of course. Sometimes things do take time and patience, but I think this is more so of the long-term sort of mindset that Polkadot may have. It's like, for instance, if I plant a tree, is it just going to grow absolutely massive in just 2 weeks? Probably not. The thing is, it may take quite a while, but it's more so of a long-term mindset. So when it comes to this, people like to say, oh, they need a very impressive partnership or something like that. But I think sometimes being focused on educating others in terms of how to build and also making a lot of these very talented individuals more familiar with their, technology, basically. Why was that a bad thing? If anything, I think that's actually a great focus on their part. So I don't think this is a waste of resources or anything like that. A lot of people like to tell me that, oh, this is such a waste of resources, but I don't really agree with that, actually. Some people like to tell me, oh, why didn't they just use the resources to partner up with a celebrity? Well, okay, we have to think about that. If they do that, what does that really do for the fundamentals? In some cases, I don't really know what it does, if anything at all, other than just, creating a lot of short-term attention, maybe in some cases. So I think this right here is actually better. Again, if more developers out there are familiar with Polkadot, if they actually start building more in Polkadot, it's not such a bad thing, in my opinion, even though it's not really reflecting it when it comes to the charts. But especially at a time like right now, when the market isn't doing the best, what usually happens? A lot of developers don't really want to build anyways when it comes to the space. So isn't this actually a better time to kind of educate others about sort of their core technology as opposed to later? Because if they're doing it right now, it kind of gives more time, I think, for developers to kind of study it, actually be familiar with it, And later on, if they choose to want to build things, then it just gives them a better runway, basically, because they had time to actually compartmentalize just the aspects of Polkadot, in my opinion. But even if they don't build anything when it comes to Polkadot, I still think it's pretty commendable anyways when it comes to Polkadot teaching others about its core technology. But yeah, besides that point, people like to tell me, oh, well, when is DOT ever going to recover? Now, here's the thing. I do not know the answers to that question because I can't control this market. Keep in mind, I'm just one person. Allegedly, when it comes to the space overall in its entirety, there's over 600 million owners. That's pretty massive. And DOT in and of itself has over 1 million holders. So I'm just one person. What can I do? If I don't care about the market doesn't care. If I care about the market, it also doesn't care. Either I'm in this market or not, the market doesn't care, right? So I can't control anything. But one thing I do know, though, is that I can take a look at the charts when it comes to Polkadot and just take a look at historically what it's kind of done. Now, if we take a look at it, back in December 2024, it was around $10.50. I mean, come on, right? Like, we're so low compared to that. We're around 8 times lower than that. So again, Polkadot's not doing the best, but I'm just saying, isn't that kind of the point for me? Because if I care about it right now and it just goes back to around $10.50, I'm already going to Sizzler, Applebee's, and as well as Chili's. That's the thing. However, yeah, besides that point though, even if, let's say, DOT never went back to $10.50, which even at one point was considered not such a good thing, actually. But I'm just saying. However, if it even just goes back to around $4.50, which we clearly did see, basically, almost, in September 2025, we're over 3 times lower than that. Does anyone think September of that year was considered the best of the best sentiment when it comes to this particular space in terms of kind of the price action and stuff like that? It wasn't really, right? It was considered actually somewhat bearish when it comes to Polkadot being around $4.50, but as of right now, we're over 3 times lower than a point in which originally at one point was considered bearish. That's how much Polkadot has had a pullback. If it could either go back to anywhere between $4.50 all the way up until $10.50, I have nothing to complain about. Keep in mind, if we take a look at the historical ceiling when it comes to Polkadot, it's $55. Do I need it to ever go back to that point? Now, it'd be awesome, of course, but at this point, just because the pullback has been this extensive, I don't really need it to do that anymore, just because, again, we're on $1.25 basically. But even besides that, is Polkadot closer to its historical floor or its historical ceiling? The thing is this, I would arguably say, if we take a look at it historically, Polkadot is actually closer to its historical bottom when compared to its historical top. Let me explain why. We do know that Polkadot's historical top is $55. Now, what is the historical floor? The floor, or should I say the historical all-time low when it comes to Polkadot, is $1.13. So is $1.25 approximately closer to $1.13 or $55? Of course, it's a lot closer to $1.13. We're just 12 cents above that as of right now. Whereas clearly we're over 40 times lower than $55. But I'm just saying, historically we do know that it's closer to its floor than it is to its ceiling. So people like to ask me, okay, why am I not concerned when it comes to Polkadot? Well, because first of all, I still like the fundamentals. Polkadot is focused on connecting blockchains together. Basically, it's focused on interoperability. And also, if I take a look at it, sure, maybe Polkadot could go lower. Who knows? I can't control anything. But I'm just saying, if it just returned back to its all-time low, okay, we're just around 12 cents higher than that. It's like, okay, whatever, to me. But if it goes back to its all-time high, or even half of that, or even just a quarter of that, then I have nothing to complain about. I'm already going to Sizzler, which is, of course, a restaurant. Kind of famous quite a while back ago. Not too famous as of right now, but, you know, I still like it. Still my favorite of all time. But besides that point, though, I'm just saying, this is the way I take a look at Polkadot. And I just want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. It's Willie the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.